I just saw Nickel Boys. I enjoyed it, but fair warning, it is a drama and it's slower paced. So depending on the type of moviegoer you are, I felt it was long, even though I knew how long it was going to be going into it. But some of the things I loved about it, I guess spoiler alert immediately. I'm just getting into spoilers. I loved how they did the point of view of the main character. Especially from when he grew up as a kid. Like, I don't think I've ever seen that before in a movie. And they've done a lot of movie things where it's from the character's point of view, but like sometimes it can just be really cheesy. But the way that they did it with some of the kind of like dirty camera movements and just having it be really raw really made me feel like I was within a home movie, and also brought me back to when I was a kid and everything just seemed so big and beyond me. And I loved how once he met his best friend, they started switching back and forth between him and his best friend. And I definitely did not see it coming, him dying and his best friend really being the one that took over his identity. I loved it was obviously based on the book, and I wonder how much of the book was like a narrative nonfiction, like almost like an autobiography memoir from someone's perspective, and how much of it was written more like a factual documentary. I really liked the unique way that they blended in the different aspects of the real life thing throughout it as they were doing the uncovering and the digging. I think towards the end they went a little overboard, and I do think that they could have cut the movie probably by 20 to 30 minutes. But that's just like, I feel like that's always my main note in these reviews, is it could have been 30 minutes to 40 minutes shorter. But I felt for the characters, Aunjanue Ellis is always extraordinary. I really loved, the main thing that I really hooked onto is the lead character and their friendship and their love. And it definitely, addresses and shows like raw on the court some of the actual horrors and things that young Black boys that were sent to this academy actually went through. So it's definitely not, it's funny because it's like, I don't like to really peg movies as this is a negative movie, this is a positive movie, because that's like BS. That's like, art is art, life is life, like reality is the ups and the downs. But it will make you uncomfortable, and it will make you sad, and it will make you mourn what really could have been, and how different white people could have been, and how different white people can be now, and just people in general too, to be honest, with what's happening in our world. But it also, it will have you think and feel that sadness, but there also is hope, and there also is uplifting. It also will make you feel uplifted, I think. But it's definitely not, it's not a blockbuster. It's an indie film. It's not Wicked. It's not something that you're going to walk away and be like, I'm so inspired, like, let me go take on my life kind of movie. Anyways, really glad that these types of movies are getting made now, and not just made. I know that a lot of them have always been made, but that they're actually getting more mainstream focus and people are getting to see them. It really points to the industry changing, and I hate to sound cynical and think, part of me wants to say, well, it's pointing to that the world is changing. And yes, like, I think change is inevitable and growth is inevitable. But then there's also part of me that's like, well, I feel like the entertainment industry only says yes to profound projects like this because now they know there's a market for it. So it's more of like this capitalistic gain and for profit than it is about them making a real difference. So the thing that's upsetting to me is I feel like studios could have really pushed boundaries and been people that stood for and shared these kind of stories from the get-go, and actually been some of these catalysts that helped change our culture way earlier than it did. But instead of being brave and doing that and being innovators, they just waited until other people started to do it. And there was one really popular film. They're like, oh, we can make money off this, telling these kinds of stories. Anyway, I had to do a little add-on to this review because I did this review before the Oscar nominations came out. And it is actually mind-blowing to me that Nickel Boys was not nominated for Best Cinematography, because that is one of the things that stood out to me the most. And also just because I cannot let go of the various Amelia Perez nominations. Aunjanue Ellis was so good. She's always so good. And I just needed to acknowledge how good her performance is, since there's so many mediocre performances that are getting acknowledged this year by the awards.